CB, Chris Barclay, man, a male legend, uh, somebody that I went to school with, man, one of my favorite players to watch, an underrated player, I may add at that, man, but definitely appreciated in my book, man. Coach, running back coach at the University of Purdue. Welcome to the Players Perspective Uncensored Podcast, my brother. Good to see you, man. Good to catch up with you.
Likewise, Larry. Thanks for having me on, man. Excited to catch up with you. It's been a while.
Already. It has. Man, I'll take it back. Before we get started, man, we went to school together all the way from middle school. And at the time, you know, we played middle school basketball together. But at the time, I didn't know you played football. And so I didn't know you played football until we met in the Little League City Championship. It was two leagues. It was the Optimist League and Muhammad Ali League. And
right.
so, you know, I'm going to school with all these guys and not knowing all these guys played for Heights Point and I played for the Muhammad Ali Jets. And so I get in the game and I said, Chris? He said, what's up, OB? I'm like, oh, man. But the one thing I will say, man, and it's funny, and we'll get to it a little bit later, I love your style and how you ran because it was symbolic and it resembled one of my favorite players. And, you know, I always grew up a big Florida State fan. And so I was a big Charlie Ward, a big Warwick Dunn fan. I'm like, man, he runs and cuts just like Warwick Dunn. And so then later on to see you say that you had a relationship and a mentor with him, man, it, you know, it came together, man. I say, you know, he definitely put it together well, man. But, you know, back to the story, man, it was just funny to, you know, as we play football, man, just not knowing is like, man, this dude is nice in football too, just as good as he is basketball, man. So that's a little backstory, man, on our football board, my football days. Anyway, they didn't last too much longer after that. But
oh, man. Wow, it was some good battles we had, man. I remember, you know,
man, y'all put a spanking on us, man. Y'all put a spanking on us,
man. We had a couple players, but you know what? The city was full of them back then,
it was.
sure.
It was.
A lot of guys are doing multiple sports and really excelling in both. And you were kind of, you know, one of the first ones to do that. You know, we just tried to follow in your footsteps, man.
For sure. So growing up, man, who was somebody that inspired you? You know, you played all sports, you played basketball, football, and I'm sure other sports. But who was, you know, athletes or some people that you looked up to when you were growing up?
No doubt. I mean, you know, so many you know, tremendous players, athletes, influential people over the years that I looked up to. I just remember, you know, a couple that come to mind would be like Barry Sanders. You know, watching him coming through. I mean, just it seemed like he could create magic anytime he touched the football. You know what I mean? It didn't matter, you know, how well things were blocked or whatever. I mean, he had the opportunity to take it to the house from wherever he was on the football field, and that was exciting. I mean, he's certainly the best of all time, in my opinion. You know, he was one that I watched carefully. I was a big, believe it or not, when I was coming up, I was a big Buffalo Bills fan. And, you know, I enjoyed watching Thurman. I liked watching Thurman operate. You know, he was, you know, methodical, very good vision, just had it all, you know, complete skill set, could catch, could block, I mean, do it all. And they had some of the good teams. And, you know, it was just a lot of different guys. But, I mean, for sure, for me, from a size standpoint, it had to have been Warwick Dunn. I mean, when he kind of, you know, started putting it on in Tampa and then Atlanta later on. I mean, it was special. That really kind of gave me inspiration. Like, you know what? He's like the same size as me, and he's up there doing it. You know, perennial Pro Bowler.
Right.
Man, there's hope for the little guys like me. So, you know, he would be probably number one for me.
Right. So coming out of Mail, man, we had some dominant teams. We were loaded with talent. And you had your pick of the schools. What was it about Wake Forest that made you pick Wake over some of the other schools?
That's a good question. I mean, you know, my parents always were big into academics, education, as was I. Obviously, you know, with us going to Male High School, I mean, you really had no choice, you know, coming from that established high school. I mean, they did a good job preparing the students for college and the college curriculum, you know, for what you would see. And so that was always in the forefront of my decision. I definitely wanted the best of both worlds. I wanted to be challenged in the classroom as well as on the football field. And I wanted the highest level of competition. It was, you know, I just had a very high opinion of myself back then. And I felt like I could play at the Power 5 level. You know, and I'm sure there were other opportunities that presented themselves, but it was really Power 5 or nothing for me. You know what I mean? That's just kind of where my head was. And so really it came down to my final three choices came down to Wake Forest, Boston College, and Northwestern. I really liked all three of those. I mean, they were all great academic institutions that I knew the degree would work for me well after I'm done playing ball. But also, I'd be challenged to be good competition in each of those conferences at the time. So Wake, I mean, what it boiled down to for me, OB, was those folks. I'll never forget my recruiting coach, Dean Hood. He's now the head coach at Murray State right now. He sat in my living room and he looked me in my eye in front of my parents and he said, Chris, I think that you'll make a hell of an ACC running back. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think you could play receiver, you could play corner, you could do any one of those things. But personally, I think you're going to be an all-ACC performer at running back. And no one had really told me that, not even the University of Louisville at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that resonated with me because, I was on the smaller end of the spectrum.
Right.
You saw my body. I mean, okay, is he a corner? Is he a receiver? That type of frame. But I was always gifted with the ball in my hand. And so when they expressed that confidence in me, OB, it was a wrap, man. I mean, I knew I could get challenged academically. It had everything that I wanted, so it was a no-brainer.
Man, listen, you had a amazing, a Hall of Fame career at Wake Forest. You left the school leading in 7 categories, all-time leader in rushing yards, all-time scoring leader, rushing touchdowns, scoring touchdowns, all-purpose yards, number of 200-yard games, number of 1,000-yard seasons. Man, you really had a placard of a career at Wake Forest. So what would you say is the one moment at Wake Forest that you really resonate or are really stuck with you throughout your 4 years at Wake Forest?
Man, so many great memories. That's a great question, OB. I mean, all the teammates, incredible teammates, that you had over the years, and we still keep in touch, a lot of them. All the different personalities, just the locker room, banter and all those things. But for me, if I had to point to one particular moment, it's hard. I got to go 2. You got to give me 2.
All right, go ahead.
So the first moment would have to be definitely winning the ACC Player of the Year award. I mean, that I would say to this point was probably my highest accomplishment of my career. That was kind of the pinnacle. Little did I know, and it was fine. I'm certainly excited about the career I had, but that accomplishment really meant a lot for the program at the time. It was kind of still trying to take off and take to the next level. And actually the following year, the boys ended up winning the ACC championship. You know what I mean? And so I like to always think that I at least had a piece in
set the precedent
helping
for it.
to get there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that would be number 1 for me. But number 2, and a close second, would be probably, I guess, my best game that I had there was my sophomore year against Maryland, the final game of the season. I believe it's still an ESPN Classic. Every now and then I see it. I kind of miss it all the time, but they call it the track meet. Bruce Perry was the running back for Maryland at the time. I believe he finished the game with like 254 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. And I finished the game with like 28 carries, 243 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. And it only, at that time, had only been the 5th time in NCAA history the 2 opposing backs had over 200 yards rushing in the same game.
Right.
So it was a special night, and certainly a lot of guys put a lot of hard work in, a lot of teammates over the years, coaching staff put in the work. We came up short that night, but it was certainly a special night for me personally.
Right. Now, not only were you the ACC Player of the Year, but you were the Offensive Player of the Year that year as well. And so having that special of a career, man, and really topping it off with those awards, you go into the NFL draft and you don't get drafted. I mean, I know how kind of disheartening or I don't want to say discouraging, but how, point that can be, working so hard your whole life to, you're proving people wrong, you get to the highest point, and you've done everything that you can do, and you still don't get your name called in the one place that you dreamed about. And I always tell people, man, it's not something that you just get over overnight, man. It takes it takes some time to really get over that, man, because you spent 21, 22 years building up to that point, and it's sort of a letdown. So you didn't get drafted after that career. how did you move on past that, even though you had a stint in the NFL, but just not getting drafted? How did that make you feel, and how did you get over that? How long did it take you to get over it, if ever?
Wow. You know, um, that's interesting. As you know, as a competitor, you work your whole life for that moment, hopefully to hear your name called and see those dreams realized and everything. But it hurt when it didn't happen. I never understood, and I suppose I never will understand. And maybe it's not for me to understand. But what I do understand is that I was still afforded an opportunity, and I think that that's all that anybody could ask for is an opportunity. And it took some time, Ob. You know, I remember the day, and I had to remove myself from the family and friends and things, and kind of just get away and clear my head. Uh, really, just pray and allow God to work in my heart and to open my eyes to the opportunities that I still had in front of me. And so that's what I tried to do. It took a little bit of time, but I had to kind of make some choices. I mean, we had to figure out. I had quite a few calls as far as teams wanting to bring me in as a priority free agent, and there were some bids and things like that. And so we kind of looked at different situations. But ultimately, I ended up in Cleveland. Uh, I ended up actually firing that agent and going with a guy that I probably should have had from the beginning. You know, just a lack of communication and things, just being on the same page. So you know how that goes sometimes, the business of it. But you know, from that point, I mean, I think you know, God just kind of worked, and I had an opportunity to play a little while in the NFL, and that certainly was a dream come true for me. So you know, I don't regret anything. I think that everything happens for a reason. That was supposed to happen that way, and I think it actually fueled my fire once I got in the NFL, because I saw a lot of guys I came in with that were draft picks that didn't last as long as I did.
Right.
You know, so you know, there's something to it, but there's also about what do you do once you get there. You got to put in the work, and you know, so that I'm just grateful to actually have an opportunity and be able to make a few plays on Sunday.
Right. So not only did you play in the NFL, you played with the Titans, you played with the Browns, you did a stint with the Saints, but you did NFL Europe for a bit too. How was NFL Europe playing in Germany?
Oh man, it was great. I mean, as you know, I mean, you spent some time overseas as well, and you know, I'm following on Facebook and things like that.
Right.
Definitely, I saw you doing your thing, but it was neat. Ob, I mean, it was great to kind of get outside and see a different culture, be around different things that you might have read about, like coming up in history class and things like that. I mean, because I was in Berlin,
Yeah.
you know, so I mean, to see the Berlin Wall and like, I mean, traveling to these different places in Berlin. We actually, one of the places that we flew to, one of the teams was in Dusseldorf, so Amsterdam. So, I mean, to see that culture and how it operated, because when we went, you know, you stayed 2 days and whatnot. So it was unique. I mean, the food, you know, I definitely missed the food in America. You know
Right.
what I mean? For sure.
Nice.
You know, I couldn't wait to get back and just give me a Big Mac. You know what I mean? Like a real Big Mac. But nah, man, it was cool. I mean, you kind of got used to it. I'm gonna tell you what, I ate a lot of peanut butter and jelly stuff. Like a lot of peanut butter and jelly. That you recognize that, but it was great. Ob, I mean, the coaches. I mean, I learned, and I still keep in touch with some of the coaches I had over there. I mean, it was an awesome experience, and just a chance to hone my skills and get ready to come back to the NFL.
Yeah, they was probably trying to feed you all type of schnitzels and bratwurst and everything
Oh
over there,
man,
boy.
yes sir, yes sir. You know it. I mean, it was all of that. Oh man, I can't even remember they used to shave the meat.
Shawarma.
And
The shawarma.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I mean, it was all kinds of. It was awesome.
Dope. So after your playing days, when did it hit you that you knew you wanted to become a coach, or did you want to get into coaching?
You know, it's funny because I don't know that maybe some people grow up and they know they just want to be a coach. You know, I never really had that feeling. I knew I wanted to hopefully play in the NFL one day if I was given the opportunity. So that happened. But then when I came back home, I was with my parents. I was at home just trying to figure some things out, and worked a couple odd jobs here and there, UPS, things like that, third shift. And it was just like, whoa, like, okay. So this is like, life. You know what I mean? Like, this is life. Like, this is life. Okay. So I said, you know what? I gotta do something that I love. Like, and so I was working at UPS at the time, and I actually went back to Mayo, and I was helping Coach Redmond at Mayo, and just like when I get off, I'll go over there and kind of help him with the running backs and things like that. And I was helping on offense and with the defensive players as well. So it was neat. Like I found myself like as tired as I would be when I got off, like I would take a quick nap and I would always go to school. You know what I'm saying? Go back to school. Like I always found a way to get to the school to pour into the kids because I felt like they needed it. You know what I mean? Like I felt like it was beneficial, and I could see like little progress with them each day, each week for sure. And it was like, whoa, like okay, I'm kind of passionate about this. You know what I mean? Like I've got some things that I can offer to them. I'm young enough that I can relate to them, but also like I played enough that I can drop knowledge on them and help them and watch them grow. You know what I'm saying?
Incredible. That's the big thing.
Right. You know what I mean? And so I said, you know what, man? And it was cool. And I did that for a little while. Next thing you know, I actually ended up getting a call from my collegiate coach, Jim Grove, to come back as a graduate assistant, and the rest is history.
Nice. And so you were a graduate assistant at Wake, and then after that stint, you were running back coach at William and Mary. And then after William and Mary, you went to Marshall. And after Marshall, you came back to a Louisville connection. You know, you joined up with Jeff Brom. How was that connection established? Because I know Brian, his little brother, is somewhat closer in age. But how did you get connected with Jeff at Western and then, ultimately up at Purdue?
No doubt. I mean, it was interesting because I had been at Marshall in 14 and 15 as a running back coach, and I believe that was the season in 14 was the season that Western Kentucky made the jump into Conference USA, because I believe they were the Sun Belt or something of that nature beforehand. So they came into Conference USA then, and so we had a couple great battles. And so I knew just from the Brom name is big, growing up in Louisville, and you know that. And so like you said, I actually competed against Brian in a couple state championships. One for sure that I know about. I actually picked him off in the state championship game. They won it, but he won't tell you. He won't admit that. But I picked him off in the end zone. Now they beat us real good. But anyway, now we had a couple battles, and it was just mutual people. I mean, you know how it is growing up in Louisville. You kind of know, you just know people, and
right.
We were able to, through some mutual friends, we were able to connect, and certainly it's been great. It's been great ever since. I mean, that was the best decision I've made in my career, was hooking up with Coach Brown. He's a great guy, awesome coach, and he does it the right way, So we've been rolling, kind of ever since. Now we got to pick it up here, but we excited about where we are and what the challenges we got ahead.
And that was pretty cool, man, to come back home to Western too. It get you back home, closer to home and closer to your folks. But one thing I want to ask you, being a former player, now that you're a coach, what's something that you had to learn going from being a player to being a coach?
Man, just how to teach. You know what I'm saying? How to teach effectively to more than one type of player, one type of individual. How to connect, how to make things real, applicable. You know what I'm saying? It's a nonstop process, and I'm learning on the fly. It's a job that I cherish, and I feel like I know my strengths, but I'm also aware of my weaknesses. And every opportunity I take, every day I go into the job is another learning experience. But that would be the biggest thing, Larry, is just to learn how to communicate, to make things real from a drill standpoint. I mean, just like the things that I would do on the field, I kind of was naturally instinctive and could do, you know what I'm saying? But like now, I feel like the biggest challenge that I find myself now is, okay, if a young man struggles in a particular area, how can I create a drill in which to almost create that scenario and make them have to accomplish what they need to accomplish in real time, in a drill that it's real movement, and they're having to make real leverage reads, etc. You know what I'm saying? And it's a challenge that I enjoy. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I don't always get the most talented guys here, but so what we've got to do is we've got to be great evaluators, and we got to be great developers. And so, that's just the communication, how to teach guys. They learn differently. Some guys you can draw it up on the board, they got it. Other guys, you have to take them out and walk them through it. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
whatever the guy needs, that's what the coach has to provide. At least the good ones, that's what they should be able to do.
And that leads into my next question. When you and the coaching staff are out recruiting running backs, what are some of the tangible things that you look for in a potential recruit that's going to fit into your system?
No, that's a good question. I mean, definitely, everybody wants a speed, right? Speed changes the game. Speed makes the math work in your favor. You know what I mean? Because it is 11 on 11. Playmaking ability. I mean, how does he see the game? Is he able to make plays? I'm into more so now. I'm into change of direction. Can he create in short spaces? So then you start evaluating things like the shuttle a little bit more, the 5-10-5. That's going to tell you a lot about how he changed the direction. How quickly can he do that? Because at this level, I mean, that equates to oftentimes success. I mean, it's 11 on 11. So can you change your direction quick enough to make that defender miss? Whether you've got a garage type of space or you were in a closet, you know what I'm saying? Like you got to make that guy miss, or be able to functionally run him over, but you can't run everybody over. So you got to have some ability and some agility. So those two things. But in our scheme, I mean, with the biggest thing that we would evaluate next to those two things is hands. I mean, we're gonna throw football here. You know what I mean? So you gotta be able to catch. I can't bring you in here if you got two left feet for hands. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just not gonna work. We go constantly be mad at you. You know what I mean? But then you become situational. So then you look at their hands, contact balance. You want a kid that's sturdy. It is the Big Ten. And it's just big boy football up there.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to come up here and function as a little guy. I mean, it can be done, but you got to be strong. And I mean, just the intangibles, just the instincts.
Sometimes do you ever go and like recruit, like, we just want to get the best athlete, and once we get him here, we can kind of fit him into a position that fits our system. He may be a running back in high school, but we may put him as a wide receiver, or we may put him as a, like you said, like a DB or something. Sometimes you just, instead of just recruiting position, do you go out just recruiting the best athletes that you can?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no question about it. In my opinion, I don't think you have too many athletes on your team. I think athletes are what everybody wants. You fit those guys accordingly. And that's kind of some of those skill sets and things that I'm looking at. Like I'll watch athletes. It doesn't have to be a particular running back. I like to see, personally, I love to see kids that play defense as well. I love to recruit kids that play both ways because that tells me he's tough. He loves to play. He loves to compete. You know what I'm saying? And I know different high schools have different philosophies. Sometimes they have two platoons, etc. But I love guys that go both ways. It's going to tell you a lot about that kid, And so definitely, I certainly think that there is a place to recruit athletes. You need athleticism. That's something that everyone's always coveting.
So being a former player, you see both sides now that you're a coach. And I want to ask you about the modern trend now of kids skipping bowl games to prepare for the NFL draft. You understand because you once were a player and you're looking out for your future. But now that you're a coach and now one of your main players says, Coach, I'm bypassing the bowl game. I want to prepare for the NFL draft. I don't want to risk injury. How is that now? How do you and your, coaching staff look at that now when a player approaches you and he says that?
Yeah, I mean, that's real. That's certainly something that's happening often these days. And everybody looks at it differently. I can only speak for myself. That player and I would have to sit down and have a conversation, and we would see where he is, what the NFL is slotting him, where they feel that he's projected. And me personally, I mean, obviously, if he's thinking about those, I would imagine that he's in a place where he's possibly looking to go to a combine, or there's quite a bit of interest around him. He's making sure that he doesn't risk injury, which I have no problem with that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Me personally, I'm not going to question the kid if we get to the bowl game and he's wanting to sit, not participate, especially if he's got a high projection or things like this. He's done enough, obviously, in his career to that point where he might be getting ready for a combine or a senior bowl or something of this nature. I mean, hey, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to do what you got to do to take care of your
Right.
family. Now, if he's a fringe guy, I mean, that might be a deeper conversation. You know what I'm saying? There might be a little bit more conversation about it. You know what I'm saying? But I think that if he's a surefire lock at a certain level, you know what I mean? I think that, yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do to take care of yourself. I mean, this game, especially at this position, the running back position, there's only so many hits, you know, that the guy takes before the body starts to break down. And they do look at that. They certainly look at that aspect of things, as the amount of carries, the amount of mileage is what some teams use. So, you know, you got to be competent, at least cognizant of that. But, you know, to each their own. I mean, I think this is something that these kids definitely, they're within their rights to think about that. You know, each one has their own unique situation.
Right. And so the last thing I want to ask you about, man, before we get to our rapid fire segment, I want to ask you about your mentorship and your relationship with Warrick Dunn. As I said before, you know, he was one of my favorite players and somebody that when I first saw you play instantly reminded me of, you know, Warrick Dunn. And then to hear you say that was somebody that you emulated and then that you got a chance to meet and form a mentor relationship with. Talk to us about that, how that came about and, you know, how it's really helped you, you know, on, you know, as a coach, as a player, and just as a friendship.
No doubt. No doubt. I mean, well, actually, I met Warwick in Louisville at a derby function, actually. And it was really, really neat. It was a nice function, a lot of people come in town, obviously, for the Kentucky Derby, first weekend in May. And he and I actually got to talking. I actually sought him out. I mean, obviously, and we had a conversation. It was really cool. It was like like we met before, you know,
Right.
and you know, I kind of was telling about my career a little bit. And I was like, hey, you know, I grew up watching you. I was a big fan and you know, and all those things. And it was really neat. We actually exchanged information there. And I believe this was in my junior year. So we talked quite a bit going like my whole senior year, which is the year I was chasing his record, you know, and breaking his record and stuff
Right.
in the ACC. So he really was just awesome. I mean, it was really cool to relate to someone that way. I mean, he a stand-up guy, very active in his community wherever he's been. You know, just a genuine person. Gonna keep it 100 with you. I mean, he's not gonna sugarcoat. And I mean, he's got a very unique story of his own. You know, with his family and how he came up and the tragedy and things like this. So, I mean, he's someone that you could easily gravitate towards, and he helped me, you know, kind of going through that senior year and in the early part of my NFL career. And then, you know, we kind of, you know, we keep in touch every now and then, but it was more so through that senior season as I was breaking his record and kind of going through and doing my thing. But awesome guy, certainly one of the most stand-up individuals I've ever had the opportunity to come into contact with.
Nice, nice. Now, Chris, we've reached a part of the podcast that we call our barrel-proof segment of rapid fire questions. We're gonna shoot you some rapid fire questions. Don't give it a lot of thought. Just give us your first answer. We're gonna roll with it.
All right, let's roll.
Favorite basketball player to watch today in today's game?
Favorite basketball player. I mean, it's hard to go against LeBron. I mean, he's just a phenom. You know what I mean? But my loyalty, I gotta go with LeBron first. But I mean, CP. I mean, he's my guy. I went to school with CP. You know.
Okay.
What I mean? And,
Okay.
Chris Paul. I mean, so I'm rocking with the Suns right now. You know what I mean? We're gonna see if we can make some noise.
Your favorite stadium that you enjoyed, that you look forward to competing in, either as a player or a coach?
It's one of two. Obviously, Doak Campbell Stadium in Florida State is legendary.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would have to say Death Valley at LA Clemson. You know what I mean? Like Death Valley. I mean, it was the biggest stadium in the ACC at the time, and I believe it's still the case. Just unbelievable atmosphere for sure.
Yeah. I actually went to a Clemson game last year when they were playing Florida State. Man, they killed us though. They killed Florida State. And people kill me too. They say, man, how are you a Florida State fan? You went to Louisville. I said, man, it just runs deep in my veins, man. I've been Florida State ever since I was a little kid, man.
I know, no doubt. It's awesome. Great tradition.
The best football player that you've played against on the basketball court?
On the basketball court. Okay. Ooh, man, that's a tough one. You know what? I mean, can I keep it in house? I'm gonna just go with Mike Bush, man.
Mike Bush.
You know what I mean? Like, just, I mean, practice. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, he just was unbelievable. You know what I mean? Like, obviously we play on the same team, but I mean, in practice, going against him and stuff just was unbelievable. I mean, he's just an incredible athlete. You know what I mean?
Mike was a heck of an athlete. Favorite restaurant to go and have a meal at? If you only had one restaurant, what restaurant you choosing to go have a meal at?
Okay. Well, I like steak. You know what I mean? I like Morton's. I'm gonna go to Morton's if I can. You know what
Morton's.
I mean? Yeah,
Nice.
I'm a Morton's guy. Definitely.
Your favorite pregame ritual?
Favorite pregame ritual? Man, I guess just listen to my music, get in my zone.
Who you listening to most of the time? But who would you when you was playing? Who was somebody that
when
you
I was
listened
playing?
to? Yeah, who was you listening to?
Okay. Ah, man. You make me take it back. I mean, it was so many. I mean, man,
Who's somebody that you play? Who's
DMX.
somebody that's playing in the locker room now before your kids go out and take the field? Who are they listening to now?
Lil Baby. I mean, you know what I mean? I love Drake, J. Cole. I mean, I'm a huge fan. Kendrick, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When I played, it was probably like DMX, you know what I'm saying? Something to get me in my head space. Something like that. I mean, I was always a Jay-Z, Nas, T.I., you know what I mean? Outkast. But these days, I like Drake, J. Cole, and Kendrick. I mean, but these boys, they listen to all these. I don't even know all these guys. You know what I mean? I can't keep up. But I mean, Lil Baby, I hear a lot of Lil Baby, and all that.
Right.
In Future, you know what I mean?
Who's somebody in today's game that resembled how you played?
That's a good question. In today's game, I mean, stature-wise, I wish I was as fast as Tariq Cohen from Chicago. You know what I mean? Like the running back up there in Chicago, he's pretty tough. I mean, he's able to impact the game in the passing game as well as the running game. I mean, he's tough. I definitely, from a stature standpoint, he would probably be the one. Mm-hmm.
That's a question that we call franchise, sign, and waive. You got to franchise a quarterback that you're going to build your team around. You got to sign a running back that you're going to keep on your team, and you got to waive a guy that you just don't have roster spot for.
Okay.
3 options. You got 3 options: Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey. Who you franchising? Who you signing? Who you waiving?
Oh man, that's tough. OB, that's the toughest one. That's a strong question. So you said Alvin Kamara,
Dalvin Cook, and Christian McCaffrey. You got to franchise one you build your team around. You got to sign one that you're keeping on the team, and you got to waive one you don't have a roster spot for.
I'll tell you what, because I'm a fan of all 3. You know what I mean? I'm a fan of all 3. I probably would have to franchise Alvin Kamara. You know what I mean? He just does it. You know what I mean? He does all of it. And Christian does too. Christian's had a couple of injuries here and there and whatnot. I would probably franchise Alvin. And then I would sign man. Like it depends on, and obviously a lot of it depends on what we're doing, what kind of offense are we, everything like that. But I mean, I would just say just to have like a little bit of a different style of back, I would probably sign Dalvin, you know what I'm saying? Just to have a little bit of a just different style. And then I mean, I guess obviously I would do everything in my power. If I gotta let a couple other people go, I'm gonna try to make it work for Christian too. We gonna try to make it work.
I can't say I would disagree with that, man. I can't say I would disagree with that. I just think that Alvin Kamara is probably him and Christian are probably similar because they're all purpose. They catch out of the backfield, they run it, change the direction. Alvin just, has less injuries than Christian, man. Christian's just had the injury bug, and Dalvin, I'm just biased, just for the fact that, I'm an FSU guy. He leads the league in rushing. So I can't say I would go different. I would say franchise Alvin, sign Dalvin, and unfortunately, man, I'd have to waive Christian McCaffrey.
No doubt.
True or false? No, not true or false. Is Tom Brady the most accomplished football player ever, or is he the greatest of all time?
I think he's both. I think it's hard to dispute that. It's hard to go against that. When you have that many Super Bowls, it's hard to do that in this game. With 11 people out there, it's the ultimate team sport. It takes all 11. But at the same time, if you don't have that guy right there that can be a great decision maker and make everyone else around him better. I mean, I think for me, you really saw that this year. I thought because for him to leave New England, now obviously he's had more weapons in this past season than he had probably maybe his whole career. But for him to leave New England, leave Coach Bill Belichick, who I think is probably the greatest of all time, and go to a new city, new program and everything, and go win a Super Bowl against a tremendous Kansas City team. I mean, that just speaks volumes to his impact. And it just feels to me like it felt when Mike was playing. You know what I mean? Like, where the title's going. It's just follow number 23 back then. You know what I mean? Where is number 12 at? That's what the title's
following
going.
12, huh?
Following 12.
Last question, CB, before we let you get out of here. What's the one thing that you preach to your kids each day that you go to practice, not only about football, but about life?
No doubt. The one thing, really, it's a lot of different things, but
or the best advice that you could give them, let's say.
Give it all you got. Give it all you got. Give it all you got. Empty your tank. Whatever you have, whatever God's given you, maximize it. You know what I'm saying? And whatever you do, whether it's individual drills, whether it's a half line segment, just play with fanatical effort, and that will cover up for some things. You know what I'm saying? But you got to play hard, go hard, and that's life. You got to go hard at life. Don't let life catch you off guard. You got to attack life. You know what I'm saying? And everything that you do, attack class, attack the weight room, attack the field. You just got to attack. And if you have that type of mentality, I believe good things happen for those type of people.
CB, way to close the podcast, brother, man. It's a pleasure to have you on, man. It's good catching up with you, man. Tell the wife and the family I said hello, man. Send them my regards. Definitely stay safe. You guys, with everything that's going on, man. But just tell them it's good to talk to you and wish you guys nothing but the best, man.
Thank you, Larry. I appreciate you, man. It's always good to rap with you. Certainly praying for you, man. Keep going up, man. Definitely rooting for you, big dog.
You know it.